Welcome to today's edition of the Daily Insider here on VegasInsider.com. I am Kevin Rogers. Hope you're having a good Thursday post Cinco de Mayo. May the 6th be with you. And we take you through the next 35, 40 minutes or so, or we'll look at Major League Baseball. A lot of afternoon games to hit on, so we want to get to that first before we get to the NBA. Want to remind you also about our Daily Insider contest, which comes out, which is every day when we have the show from Monday to Friday. And all you have to do is drop in your Vegas Insider user ID along with your best bet for the day in the comments section, not in the live chat, but the comments section. And you put that in there, you will be in the drawing to win a week's worth of handicapper selections from one handicapper at VegasInsider.com. And our marketing department will reach out to you. That's the reason why we need your user ID, so we can reach out to you. If you don't have a user ID, that's perfectly fine too, because you can hit the big yellow register button in the upper right corner. It's very clear to see. And free membership, register now, and you can create your ID and password and your email address as well as your first and last name, all for free, just so you can we can get in touch with you. Simple as that. And drop in your best bet. It could be a side, it could be a total, it could be a first 5-inning play, it could be a player prop. Just no live betting. That's the only thing. No live betting. It's got to be before the game for whichever game you want, and then you'll be in the drawing to win the prize of a free week's worth of handicapper selections. So, with all that being said, let's get it going. Major League Baseball, we'll get to the games coming up in just a few minutes for today. Let's first do a quick review of yesterday in Major League Baseball. And first off, Colorado, they end up beating San Francisco 6-2. You see 6 runs there in the 4th inning for the Rockies. So they end up taking 2 of 3 there from the Giants. So that's a good job there by Colorado. And they continue to play well at home. I mean, except for that little game a few days ago, they gave up 10 runs in the 1st inning to the Giants. Besides that, they played very well at home and scored a lot of runs at home as well. So the Rockies ended up taking 2 of 3 from the Giants after they had lost the previous 2 series at San Francisco, in which they dropped 5 of 6. So the Rockies get a little bit of revenge there. Miami over Arizona, Ross Detweiler, he got the late emergency call to start in place of Pablo Lopez. That line plummeted down to the Marlins laying 110, but it didn't matter as they beat the Diamondbacks 8-0. Second straight win for the Marlins over Arizona in this series. 6 runs out of the gate for Miami, but the game pushes the total of 8. So you had 6 out of the gate. Arizona can't score it all the rest of the way. Miami gets 2 in the 7th, and they win it. And you had the first night where the game was under most of the way until the Marlins explode in the 8th inning. And last night, if you had the over, you got lucky with the push there with a couple runs there in the 7th inning. But the Marlins win against the Diamondbacks, who swept that series, or took 2 of 3 from the Braves, rather. They have lost 2 to the Marlins here on this current road trip. Speaking of the Braves, Atlanta wins at Washington 5-3. Second straight under between these teams. Max Fried pitches well. I said it yesterday that the first matchup with Max Fried against Eric Fedde, the second game of the season, that was after the Nationals rallied back past the Braves in Game 1. Then they played a doubleheader at Nationals Park, a pair of 7-inning games. Fried and Fedde went in that game, and it was 6-5 in the second inning. It was a ridiculous game. Things calmed down a little bit more this time around. Fried pitched a lot better, and the Braves, another win in Washington. So they got swept by Toronto, but they win here over the Nationals. So now for the Nationals, they have dropped a few in a row after they swept that series from the Marlins. Milwaukee loses at Philadelphia 5-4. The Phillies put up 5 in the first, then don't score again the rest of the game. But that's now 3 straight wins for Philadelphia in the series over Milwaukee. So the Brewers, who swept the Padres last month on the road, they've lost all 3 to Philadelphia, all by a run apiece. And Milwaukee, again, they've dug themselves these big holes against the Phillies, and yet they score runs and make it interesting. Philadelphia had 4 hits in the whole game. So Freddie Peralta just had a bad inning. Simple as that. But Chase Anderson, that's another home underdog win for him. So the Phillies go for the sweep today. We'll talk about that game in just a moment. The LA Dodgers, I don't know where to go or what to do with them. They go Kershaw, Bauer, Buehler in Chicago. None of them win. LA is now 4-13 in the last 17 games. They got swept by the Cubs. A game that the Dodgers were up 3-2, up 2-0 also. Had the lead in extra innings twice, and I know things are changed a little bit with the extra inning rule. That it's easy to get the lead in the top of the 10th. You're going to have a runner on base. But the Cubs walk it off last night. So the Cubs, that's 3 really good underdog wins against 3 terrific pitchers. And the Cubs now, all of a sudden, they're back in that NL Central race where, again, no one's running away with it. Let's not make it out to be that, you have a team that's way ahead of the pack. I mean, really, when you look at it, the NL West right now, it's not the Dodgers, it's the Giants that are leading that division. And in the Central, the Cardinals are now leading it ahead of the Brewers, who have struggled recently, but the Cubs are playing their way back into it. But Chicago, that's a much-needed 3-game sweep over the Dodgers. San Diego beats Pittsburgh 4-2, 4 errors for the Pirates last night. That game stays under the 6.5. Yu Darvish continues to be a great pickup for the Padres. I know it sounds crazy, but he ends up beating Pittsburgh for the second time this season. So San Diego playing a little bit better at home, but again, not a lot of runs in these games for the Padres at home. In the American League, John Means throws a no-hitter for the Orioles and really had a perfect game, but there was a runner that got on base because of a missed strike 3, so the runner advanced to first. That's the only runner that got on base, a guy that got out. It wasn't even a hit by pitch, a walk, an error. It was a guy that got out, still got on base. But John Means throws the no-hitter against Seattle. The Mariners continue to struggle off a home win. That's now 1-8 this season off a home win for the Mariners. But John Means is a very good pitcher. This wasn't an accident. I know Seattle's not great offensively, but John Means is a very good pitcher that got the no-hitter yesterday for the Orioles. He actually avenged a performance in Seattle, a performance against Seattle at Camden Yards earlier this season in a 7-inning game where he gave up 3 earned runs to the Mariners. So he pitched well, and the Orioles ended up taking 2 of 3. The Orioles have played well on the road. You got to give them that. They took a series at Oakland, at Seattle, at Texas. They swept Boston. So Baltimore's actually been a pretty good road team so far in the season. The Yankees beat the Astros again 6-3, and obviously the Yankees a little more hype for this series, trying to avenge those ALCS losses where the Astros cheated. Not allegedly, they did cheat, but the Yankees win it last night. That game stays under the 9.5, so you went over the first game with Greinke and Herman. You go under last night with Montgomery and Garcia. Yankees go for the sweep today with Garrett Cole on the mound. Detroit wins at Boston, and that's a really tough total beat. That's the thing about these totals this year. We saw it last year too because it was instituted, the extra inning rule, but where you get to extra innings and you can have a total of 8.5. We saw it in a game earlier this season where it was 2-2 going to the 10th. It was the Arizona-Cincinnati game that it's like 2-2 or 3-3 going to the 10th, and then all hell breaks loose. So you had it right if you have the under in that Red Sox-Tigers game. That's a 3-3 game going to extras on a 9 total, but Detroit gets 3 in the top of the 10th, Boston 2 in the bottom of the 10th. So the Tigers end up winning that game with Casey Mize starting for them last night. But yeah, that one really hurts. Those are the toughest total beats this year when they go to extra innings and you already have a runner on base and you can hypothetically get these big innings and come back and get the over. The Rangers beat the Twins 3-1, and I kind of felt like you had 2 no-name pitchers. This could be the reverse game with the total because the first 2 went over with the Rangers and Twins that should not have gone over. You had a late run by both teams in Monday's game that went over, that the Twins won, and then Texas won the second game where they came back late, tied in the 1 in extra innings. So Texas wins it last night 3-1, and the Rangers are another team that's played well on the road. They played well against the Angels, against Tampa Bay, and against Minnesota. Those are quality opponents that Texas is beating on the road. So Texas, Baltimore, don't sleep on those teams on the road because they have played very well and you're getting them at very high underdog prices. So just keep an eye on them moving forward. Cleveland wins at Kansas City 5-4. That's now 3 straight wins for the Indians over the Royals. Cleveland's playing very well of late. They've kind of snuck up out of nowhere to get back into the AL Central race, which really is wide open because the Indians, they start a little bit slow. Obviously, with a guy like Shane Bieber at the top of their rotation, who really hasn't been okay. Shane Bieber's an elite pitcher. Hasn't been great from the standpoint of he doesn't have an ERA of 1. He's given up 3 earned runs or more, now I think 4 times this season, including last night. And the Royals were up 4-0 in that game, and Cleveland came back. They had a balk controversy with Angel Hernandez because he's terrible, and he started throwing everyone out that was arguing with him on a balk by Brady Singer of the Royals. And then after Singer got taken out of the game, he yelled in Hernandez's face. He got thrown out too. But that kind of sparked the rally for Cleveland. And Shane Bieber, now on the road, they've beaten the White Sox twice. They beat the Reds. They beat the Royals. So he's been pretty good. I mean, he's an excellent pitcher. But Brady Singer, actually, he's pitched better since a slow start to the season. But Cleveland's kind of caught fire of late. Tampa Bay beats LA again in Anaheim. This Angels team, for some reason, they play, I don't know if it's a Joe Madden revenge thing or what, but they beat the Angels again. Shohei Ohtani, who didn't pitch that poorly, if you see the numbers, 3 runs in the 7th, 4 hits total for Tampa Bay. But the Rays beat the Angels again. So Tampa Bay now kind of turning it around after they had a bit of a rough homestand against Houston and Oakland. But they've picked it up, and the Angels, look, this is what you're going to get in this. This is what you're going to get in a long season. It's just things are going to be up and down. They really are. The Blue Jays beat the Athletics 9-4, 7 runs late. So again, another tough underbeat. Oakland's up 3-2, going to the 8th inning on a 8 total. I know it's still pretty close, but Toronto blows up in the final 2 innings, so the Blue Jays get the win there, and they wrap up their series today in Oakland. The Reds edge the White Sox 1-0 in 10 innings. So Cincinnati went 18 innings without scoring a run against Chicago before getting the run in the 10th inning. That Reds offense, man, I'm telling you, it's not even hit or miss. I just think the first 6 games was just a total mirage, and now Joey Votto's hurt. They have hitters in the lineup. Like, let's not make it out to be that they don't, but somehow they just get cold really fast. And the Reds scored 12 against the Cubs on Sunday, or 13. It was a 13-12 game in extra innings, but then they scored 1 and 2 games against the White Sox, where you didn't face Lucas Giolito, you didn't face Lance Lynn. I mean, you faced Dylan Cease, who put together the best start of his life, and then Dallas Keuchel, who was a Cy Young winner, but still. The Mets split a pair of games with the Cardinals, and the Mets actually lost the first game and then won the second game. But, I mean, New York saw Francisco Lindor has been awful for the Mets. Let's look at the odds for today's games. Well, thank you for bearing with me under the sickness. This is not how I normally sound. Let's look at the games for today. Milwaukee and Philadelphia. They are meeting at 1:05 at Citizens Bank Park. Bryce Harper's not in the starting lineup again for the Phillies. And the Brewers here are favored with Brandon Woodruff on the mound, and he's put up very good numbers for Milwaukee. Corbin Burns got a lot of run, and he's on the IL right now, but Woodruff has been very, very good for Milwaukee this season, and the Brewers are 5-1 in his 6 starts. Zach Wheeler, meanwhile, he's had 2 excellent starts and 4 subpar starts. He gave up 4 runs early to the Mets in his last start, but he settled down after that. But Wheeler's been a bit up and down. 6.5 is a total on this game today. But you got 2 quality pitchers there going in Philadelphia. The Mets and the Cardinals at 1:15 from Busch Stadium, kind of a pick 'em there. Taijuan Walker and John Gant on the mound. And the Cardinals taking 2 of 3 so far in the series. Mets split the doubleheader yesterday. So St. Louis's winning streak came to a halt. The Mets, I can't believe, this team fires their hitting coaches, and yet they think that's going to make everything better. Firing the hitting coach is not going to make Francisco Lindor break out of an 0-for-25 slump. He's the one in the slump, not the hitting coaches. You have Lindor, you have Pete Alonso, you have all these allegedly pretty good hitters in this Mets lineup, but they can't hit the ball. And it's not like they're facing great pitchers either. They missed Jack Flaherty in this series so far with the Cardinals. I just don't get how this Mets team, and then Jacob deGrom, well, he got hurt a few days ago, but if he pitches, they can't score either. I just don't get it, because they should be a team that's better in that NL East, and yet they're not. Speaking of, good transition, Atlanta and Washington at 4:05, a couple lefty veterans on the mound, veteran lefties. John Lester makes his second start for Washington. He pitched well his first time around against the Marlins in an extra innings victory. Drew Smyly goes for Atlanta. Pick'em spot, total of 9. They've gone under the first 2. You wonder if now they go over today. There's only a few night games in Major League Baseball tonight. One of them, Arizona and Miami. Madison Bumgarner back on the mound, and he threw the no-hitter. It still is a no-hitter a few times ago against Atlanta on the road. Then he beat Colorado last time out. You would have thought that would have been, he threw a no-hitter, so he's going to fall backwards. But actually, Bumgarner's put together 3 good starts in a row. Pablo Lopez, he got scratched last night, so he's in tonight against the Diamondbacks, and total of 7.5 there. So that's the lone night National League game. And the American League, I was wrong on that, Rays and Angels. There's 1 game left, so I apologize on that. We'll get to that in a second. All right, Yankees and Astros. Garrett Cole facing his former team for the first time since he went to the Yankees before last season. And obviously, the Yankees didn't play the Astros because they didn't play each other in the playoffs. But the Yankees throw out Garrett Cole. He's laying 200 today. And Garrett Cole, who already a few times this year, the Yankees have lost with him as a heavy favorite. So keep an eye on that. Lance McCullers Jr. coming off a win against Tampa Bay his last time out. But, I think he's got to be selective with the Garrett Cole, laying that. Not because of him, but because he's lost these games 3-1. Where he's pitching well, he's not getting the offense behind him. The offense has performed better for the Yankees of late, but that's still asking a lot. McCullers is still a quality pitcher. Houston still has a good lineup, but that's probably a pass there. 7.5 total. Interesting. Detroit and Boston, and the Red Sox, again, a heavy favorite here against the Tigers after Detroit won last night. You had a high-scoring game in Game 1. Game 2 was low-scoring, but then blew up an extra inning, so now you have a total of 8.5 with Spencer Turnbull, who last year put together a few quality starts. Nathan Eovaldi goes for Boston. I just don't like that game. Texas and Minnesota, and that's Game 4 of their series. So far, the Rangers have taken 2 of the first 3, total of 8.5. And Jordan Lyles, who, again, I feel like I say this all the time, but it's the truth. So many of these guys, it's just so hit or miss with them. Jordan Lyles can win this game against Minnesota today. That he's a guy that can cash as a heavy underdog because Minnesota's offense is so inconsistent. It's been more of the bad than good this year. They've been better of late, but even last night they got 1 run. And Michael Pineda goes for the Twins, but like I said with Texas, they are a very good road team. They're a tough out. So you could maybe look at the Rangers here in this afternoon game. It's an early start in Minnesota. Cleveland and Kansas City, Danny Duffy, ERA of under 1. He beat the Indians early this season. Tristan McKenzie, who goes for Cleveland. I had the under in Saturday's White Sox-Indians game, and McKenzie started for Cleveland opposite Lance Lynn. That ended up being a 7-3 game. There was a point in that game where the teams had combined for 3 hits, and it was 5-3. Here's what happened if you missed it. So they go through the first inning, no score. Top of the second, McKenzie walks the bases loaded, walks in a run, okay? Then Tim Anderson hits a grand slam. They score 5 runs in the inning on 1 hit. So McKenzie holds him to 1 hit, but he gives up a grand slam and also walked in a run. So there were 5 runs right there on one hit, which is very frustrating, and the White Sox won 7-3. So McKenzie will try to start over today against Danny Duffy, and Cleveland's taking the first 3 of that series. All 3 have gone over the total, so maybe it goes backwards today. But the Indians have played better of late. I got to give them that. They've played very well, and again, that AL Central where take away Detroit, the Royals have been in the mix a little bit. The White Sox will still be there in the end, and Minnesota struggled. But Cleveland feels like that forgotten team because Lindor is gone, and past Shane Bieber, there's just not a lot of star power on that team. But they played well. Tito's got them playing well. Toronto and Oakland today. That's a 3:35 first pitch out in the Bay. And Hyun-Jin Ryu is back in the rotation for the Blue Jays. He was out for a little bit due to injury, threw a couple innings his last start. Opposite Mike Fiers, who went against the Orioles his last time out, lost 3-2 to John Means, in fact, and the Orioles last Friday night. But the A's here flipped to a home dog, and Toronto will try to take the split here with a victory. Tampa Bay and the Angels. Tell you another opportunity for the Rays to beat the Angels in Anaheim. It's just crazy that Tampa Bay's put up these numbers against the Angels on the road that the Angels can't beat them. And Anthony Rendon went on the injured list for the Angels. Had a rough one. He had a hit by pitch when he was swinging in the knee. Like, that looks very uncomfortable. Andrew Haney, who actually could be worth a look in this game tonight. He got racked early by the Mariners, and he had really good numbers against Seattle, but didn't fare well. He's laying 150 against Seattle on the road, lost that game. Now they're laying 130. I know they're trying to avoid the sweep against Colin McHugh, who was with the Astros for a long time. But Angels could be worth a look there. All right, let's take a look at the NBA. And a lot to go over from last night, especially considering the all the high-scoring games in the NBA. We'll start. Now, look, I will say this. Let me get this out of the way. Let me get this PSA out of the way. That I said it'd be impossible. If you watched the show yesterday, I said it'd be impossible for the 4 teams playing with double revenge, Orlando, Minnesota, San Antonio, and Washington. I said it'd be impossible for the 4 teams playing with double revenge to go 0-4, that they got to go even 2-2 against the spread. They went 0-4 straight up and 1-3 against the spread. And the only winner was the Wizards because they went on a run in the fourth quarter. That was a back-and-forth game with the Bucks. But, man, I thought that was going to come through. Memphis, I'll get to that in a second, or Minnesota lost by 4. Getting 3.5. But first game, Orlando, they just got totally blasted by Boston. This Magic team, they have been very competitive on the road. After all the trades and after all the injuries and everything. At home, they've been awful. That I feel like laying double digits against the Magic isn't crazy right now at home. For some reason, Orlando's been terrible at home. And they've been more competitive on the road. But Orlando has been a really good over team. They continue getting these overs. I want to show you this really quick. So they lose by, 36 points last night to the Celtics. And they've lost them 3 times now. Look at this run for the Magic. Let's go back to April 1st. Beginning of April for the Orlando Magic. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 5, 2, 6, 2, 7, 2, 8, 2, 8, 3, 9, 3, 10, 3, 11, 3, 12, 3, 12, 4, 13, 4, 14, 15 of 19 games this month, Orlando, or going into May, whatever, going into extended April. 15-4 to the over the last 19 games for the Orlando Magic. 15-4. And you had one easy under with the first game against Memphis. But these home games for the Magic, and I know, well, here's the thing. You got one opportunity left. They're not getting 10 against Minnesota because the season's done in about 10 days. But just look at how this ended for Boston, or for Orlando, excuse me. They beat Memphis on a buzzer beater by Cole Anthony, okay? They lose by 11 to the Lakers, 19 to Indiana, 35 to New Orleans, 4 to Houston, 23 to San Antonio, however many to Milwaukee, 15 to Washington. I mean, they were god-awful, but then look at the road record for Orlando. And this is key going down the stretch. Chicago, they won at. Going back, they covered against Denver. Lost to Toronto, got blown out by Atlanta. Beat Cleveland, blown out by Memphis, beat Detroit. You get Charlotte, you get Philly a few times. And who knows where the Sixers will be there as far as seeding. And Atlanta. Orlando, I don't know, they could be worth a look there down the stretch. But look at the overs, though. They are scoring. Don't be fooled. Well, they scored 96 last night. They're in a lot of high-scoring games. Don't be fooled by the Magic's lack of talent. Do not, because they're getting a lot of overs right now. And the odds makers are not putting them in the 230s. They're still putting them in the 218s, 220 range. Portland, look at what Portland did to Cleveland last night. They dropped 141 on the Cavaliers. My God. So I guess Cleveland didn't really show up after they lost that heartbreaker in overtime to Phoenix a night ago, where they were getting 12 and a half and lost by 16 in overtime. So Cleveland really didn't recover from that one pretty well. Portland, I will give them a lot of credit because they had that awful homestand. They went 0-4. And then they go on the road. They win at Indiana. They win at Brooklyn. They win at Boston. They win. I mean, Cleveland's bad, but still. To go in there in the last game of a road trip, win by 36 is impressive. They had lost to Atlanta, but still. The Blazers, that's a good job. That game sails way over the total. Memphis beats Minnesota 135. 237.5 total, no big deal. You need a bunch of 60s, 62, 74, 74, 64. Easy. But that game, Memphis barely covers. Last time they played at FedEx Forum, back in April, that game was on pace to go over. He had a bad third quarter there, kind of messed things up, and they just pumped that total up again, and it easily went over last night. Atlanta shot lights out, 63% from the floor. They beat Phoenix 135-103. Look at that, 80 in the first quarter for those teams. Suns kind of ran out of gas at the end of this. Well, they've been on the road a lot recently, but they lose that game to, they were at home, but still, they had been on the road on the East Coast. They had the games against the Knicks and the Celtics and the Sixers and the Nets. There was a lot there. They went home. They won a couple games. They beat the Clippers and Jazz, but then they went back on the road again, and they got blown up by Atlanta. Another high-scoring game there. Philadelphia beats Houston 135-115, so the Sixers keep taking care of business. They laid 14.5, no problem. Look at that, 240 total, Sacramento to Indiana. They finished at 197. Sacramento now, they've won every game on their road trip. They won at the Lakers. They won at Dallas. They won at Oklahoma City. That's a really good job by the Kings. They beat the Pacers last night. I know they're kind of, they need a miracle to get in. But De'Aaron Fox is out. Halliburton's out. Harrison Barnes is banged up. And yet the Kings, they now, it's 14-4 to the under their last 18 road games. That just was totally inflated total last night. And more on Indiana, not on Sacramento. And the Pacers one thing I'll say about the Pacers, they gave up, 154 to Washington. They gave up 104 to Sacramento. That's an improvement. They just couldn't score. The Bucks beat the Wizards 135-134. Third time Milwaukee's beaten Washington this year, and all three games were pretty high scoring. And look, the Wizards, they are still right in the playoff mix for that play-in game or the play-in tournament in the East. And they're still very good ATS after that loss to the Bucks last night. But Milwaukee, give them credit. They beat Brooklyn twice and didn't lose that game in Washington last night. And Giannis played. You would have thought that line dropped in spite of the no rest, that maybe Giannis was out, but he played. And Milwaukee, look, they're kind of getting it together now. They're a team that, everyone's talking about Brooklyn, even though James Harden's still out. Philadelphia is there, but people are waiting for the Sixers to prove it in the playoffs. But Milwaukee, I feel like the last few years, they've always been the talk of the East. Now, no one's really talking about them, but they're playing well. Utah blows out San Antonio 126-94, and that one easily an easy cover for the Jazz, and that one goes over the total by 1. So you had a 219 in spite of a 44-point second quarter, and it still goes over the total. We had a big first quarter there, which helped. But Utah wins again. So Utah, they've strung together some wins here. Denver, look at that first quarter against New York, 34-12 against the Knicks. So the Knicks, who still have been a great ATS team, it's them and the Grizzlies have been, the Grizzlies and the Wizards. Those are teams that have really been good against the spread of late. But Denver, they've handled the Knicks twice this year. And the Nuggets, they're, another team in the West without Jamal Murray. I mean, Jokic is probably going to win the MVP, but that people really aren't talking about in the Western Conference. Let's look at tonight's odds in the NBA. And you have, 7 games in the league. Chicago and Charlotte, they're meeting up in Charlotte. I was going to say Charlotte Coliseum, the Spectrum Center. Charlotte Coliseum has been torn down. The Bulls have beaten the Hornets twice this season. And now the Bulls laying 4 against the Hornets. And Charlotte, they're still a bit beat up. And they're trying to get into the play-in tournament. Brooklyn and Dallas, last time they played at Barclays Center, that's when the Nets had a lot of guys out. And Dallas went in there and they won. But now you got Durant and Kyrie healthy. And again, you're waiting for James Harden to come back to the Nets lineup. We don't know when that's going to be. But Dallas, they're coming off a really good underdog win at Miami. And now they're an underdog again against Brooklyn. And look, the Nets, we'll see what they have after they just lost a pair of games to the Bucks. Washington plays Toronto down in Tampa, and the Raptors have actually beaten the Wizards twice this season. And Washington with no rest playing this Toronto team has won their last 4 games as a favorite. Actually, I think it's 5 as a favorite at Amalie Arena in Tampa, the home of the Lightning. But the Wizards still a really good ATS team of late, and Toronto off that road trip. They went 1-4, or 1-3 rather, but they played the Clippers, the Lakers, the Nuggets, and the Jazz. I mean, what are you going to do? And they won only one of those games, but they covered twice in LA. Memphis at Detroit, and the Grizzlies laying 9 with no rest against the Pistons. And Detroit, they've continued to lose at home, but I think Detroit is trying to set themselves up for a nice draft pick, so it's called a take. Atlanta's at Indiana, and the Hawks, as long as Trae Young plays on the road, they're a great over team. It's 14-5 to the over the last 19. The Hawks have played on the road when Trae Young's in the lineup, and they had a couple unders earlier, but that was when he was out. I think it's a nice little reverse spot for the over in Indiana after they went under last night against Sacramento. And Atlanta, we know they could run and gun. I just didn't have faith in the Kings to score last night, and they didn't. They just played really good defense on the Pacers. But Indiana, I think this is one where you got another track meet. Oklahoma City and Golden State. This was once a great playoff series. Now it's just another game on the schedule. And the Warriors laying 2 touchdowns here against the Thunder. I mean, why not? I mean, the Thunder have been terrible. But Golden State, I don't think has played double digits this year. Or if they have, it was a long time ago. Then you get Lakers-Clippers, the late TNT game tonight at Staples, where the Clippers trying to beat the Lakers for a 3rd time this season. LeBron's out with the ankle injury, and the Lakers were off that win over Denver a few nights ago. I feel like they'd fall back tonight. And the Clippers, who are 0-5 against the spread, this is a game that they probably send another message to the Lakers. Schroeder's out, LeBron's out. You're the Clippers. You gotta take care of business here against the Lakers. So that's the look at the NBA and Major League Baseball. And I want to remind you about our daily picks from our handicappers. You can purchase $29.95 for the package for the day. And obviously not a lot of games tonight in the NBA, but still there are packages available. And also the guaranteed pick. What is the guaranteed pick? It's only one selection, the best selection from a handicapper. Pay after it wins, $39.95 per capper. If it wins, you pay. If it loses, you don't pay. Simple as that. So that's for the NBA, for Major League Baseball, for the NHL. So you can check all that out. And also remember to leave your best bet in the comments section below of this video for today or tonight, because you have games coming up this afternoon in baseball. You better get them in, or you're going to be shut out. But the good news is you can always try again tomorrow. But leave your Vegas Insider user ID as well as your best bet for the day. Just one. All one is one pick. And you'll be in the drawing to win free picks for a week from one handicapper at vegasinsider.com. If you do not have a Vegas Insider ID, that is completely fine because you can register here for free. Click on the yellow register button. We made it easy for you. Free membership, register now. Boom, there's the information. ID, password, you create it, email address, just so we can get in touch with you. That's it. We're not that invasive. We really aren't. We just want to know how we can find you. Our marketing department, they're going to track you down. That's all we want to do, to give you free picks. So that's what we got for you today. So we appreciate you watching the Daily Insider. In case you missed it, you can watch it later, even though some of the baseball stuff may be stale if you watch it later because there's a lot of afternoon games of baseball. But still, we'll be back with you tomorrow for the Daily Insider. I am Kevin Rogers. Thank you so much for watching. And as always, best of luck with your bets.